Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I think due to the traffic, people are still walking in. However, due to the paucity of time, we'll have to start. So welcome to the day 2 of the ICT East. And today we'll have the first session on digital supported cost optimization, solving the paradox. And for everyone who was not there yesterday, so, we have a digital host actually, inviting everyone. And the students and the professors of the GMIT College, they have actually worked with us, to give that intelligence to the hostess. And may I have Vidya on the screen?
Welcome to the day 2 of the 22nd ICT East. To commence the first session of the day, Digital Supported Cost Optimization Solving the Paradox, let's extend a warm welcome to the speakers on the dais. To begin, let us welcome to the dais the session moderator, Mr. Sarajit Jha, convener, ICT and Innovation Panel, CII Jharkhand, State Council, and Chief Business Transformation and Digital Solutions, Tata Steel Limited. Joining us is Mr. Madan Mohan Chakraborty, Managing Director, Iskra Emiko India Private Limited. Requesting your presence on the dais, please. Let me now request Mr. Amit Khan, Chief Information Officer, M Junction Services Limited, to come up on the dais. Now may I request Mr. Anirban Mukherjee, Partner, PricewaterhouseCoopers Private Limited, to kindly join other dignitaries on the dais. We are privileged to have Mr. Sanjay Prasad, CIO, CESC Power Group. May I request you to kindly join us on the dais. Now may I request Mr. Sajid Hussain, AVP and Head of Operations, Kolkata, Cognizant Technology Solutions, to please join us on the dais. I would now welcome on the dais Mr. Ravi Shankar, Chief Technology Officer, Minfi Technologies Private Limited. Over to you, Mr. Jha, for taking us through the deliberations of the session. Welcome to the...
Hello, am I audible? So, this is the morning session. I thought morning session would have more people, but I think this is like, I don't know, it's the traffic or the lack of interest in cost. It looks like the speakers outnumber the listeners. So I'm very happy to have a very engaging conversation with all of us because we have a fantastic panel here. As you can see, we are well represented across industry, across providers. People have, running companies, having very diverse backgrounds and experience. So I look forward to this topic, which is, the cost versus business excellence paradox. And is it really a paradox or not? I would also like to take this opportunity to welcome all of you on behalf of ICT East. This session has, this forum has grown from strength to strength. This year we have Japanese colleagues also who have joined us. And if there are people from other nationalities, then we have truly gone international. I would start with just two quick comments on the topic. So I think in my experience and perception, there are these 4 C's, which is, there is a customer, which is the purpose of any business. There is capabilities that you need to fulfill the customer. There is a cost that you incur. And there is actually a culture that is what gets seen to be rewarded is what an enterprise or an organization does. So if you are able to use your capabilities incurring a certain cost to keep your customers happy with your culture ahead of your competitors, then you would get the 6th C, which is cash. The 5th C being competitors and the 6th C being cash. So I think that's what the endeavor of any business should be, which is to generate fair cash while keeping customers happy and in turn being a good corporate citizen, which is the 7C. So the other comment I had is that what gets measured gets done. What gets measured and reported gets improved. What gets measured, reported, and reviewed typically gets, kind of innovated. So those are my, two kind of sort of early morning paradigms. One is the 7C sort of mantra for business. And since I was told by my good friend Mr. Sangeet Pal that it has to be somewhere related to golf, I will leave that towards the summary comments of how golf influences a corporate. We have got a lot of sportsmen. I urge them to take the cue from it as well. And with that, I would leave the floor to start with the Mr. Ravi on the right to put his opening comments. All the panelists are requested to quickly introduce themselves, maybe in 10 seconds, and then make their opening comments. And we would then, I have a couple of follow-up questions based on what they say, and then we would try to make sure that there is some time for audience questions. Over to you, Ravi. Thank you.
Thank you, Surajit. So I'm Ravi Shankar. I head Minfi Technologies. We are cloud consultants, partners of AWS. And on a day-to-day role, that what we do is consult companies to ensure they reduce their cost on the cloud. Okay, so see, as the statement rightly says, there is a paradox around it. So I'm. I'm sorry. See, the paradox actually, what we see is a truth. We see that companies are investing in softwares, with an intention to improve their efficiencies and also reduce costs. But what we see is that the investment in softwares or digitization eventually demands more investment in people that can run those softwares that are running around. Okay, so there has to be a very clear definition between what is, number one, you're trying to save as a cost. Number two, what is the investment you have to do in terms of those measures that you're taking to save the cost. Okay, so unless this definition is clear, that balance never moves towards the cost saving. It finally balances out, saying that, okay, I got this stuff, and I again got 5 people to manage that stuff. So yes, the paradox is there. The decisions have to be very clear into what kind of digitization you are implementing, and is that digitization a natural acceptance within the organization with the current set of people. So that's what my take around is.
Thank you, Ravi. We hand it over to Mr. Amit Khan.
Hello. Good morning to all of you. So myself, Amit Khan. So I am from the M Junction Services Limited. So we are into this B2B e-commerce services. Okay, where we actually help our customers to implement these and maybe this transform their business process. So we have the platform for both sales and the sourcing side, okay, where we help optimizing the process and and various the business parameter for our clients. So my take on this today's topic is basically this when we talk about the cost, okay, so and the cost, the optimization or cost reduction. So it seems kind of a mundane task to find out this how we can reduce the cost and all this stuff. But my take would be is basically, see, it is the cost optimization is not a very mundane thing, because it is something which is the kind of very much related to this the business excellence as well, because business excellence covers the every aspect of the business, as Sarojit talked about the 4 Cs which is required to run business. Okay, and the cost is the one of the critical parameter for that. And I'll just also touch upon this. There are some myth about the cost that if you put technology, you can actually reduce the cost. There is also a myth that if you put technology, it may increase your cost. So hence it is important to define this. What we mean by cost is something that we need to look at in terms of the value. So that means what value that we are creating through technology, and at what cost that we are doing it. Okay, and I think the residual value in this overall system is something that defines this how efficient the process is, and the digital transformation and cost is also very related, because any initiative that we take take up. So there must be some reason that why we are doing it. So there must be some objective why we are doing it, and during the planning stage, we need to establish a business case that why this transformation is required, and we also need to see this how or what are the various ways the transformation can be done. Okay, and we need to check this or review the cost required for this transformation, and how we can make the transformation the kind of a more cost effective and the more affordable. Okay, and so that's all would be my take on this call. So primarily to summarize, the cost is very important parameter, and it is something that we need to continuously look into.
Thanks. Yes, Madanda, over to you.
Yeah, hi, good morning. So I represent smart metering industry or smart infrastructure. So basically I have two takes on that. One from the manufacturing side, and the second one is the utilization of these kind of devices. I think most of us here, we grew up during late 80s and 90s, school 80s and universities in 90s. And at that point of time, especially in this region, we have seen kind of a conflict, man versus machine. We have seen that in banks, we have seen that in insurance companies, we have also seen that in Hindustan Motors and also in Tata Steel. Probably now this is the era in man and machine that we have understood that man versus machine was fine, but ultimately man along with machine reduces the cost and increases, basically employment and everything, efficiency, effectiveness. Otherwise, after some time, you cease to exist. So in the way we are thinking with this digital infrastructure, you can reduce cost, and I'll come directly to the point, in a preventive fashion. Let me just give one example, and when definitely you'll start asking questions and we can more elucidate. Suppose right now you really do not know when the electricity tariff will be low. I'm using electricity because as a buzzword now in Europe, the price has gone up by 420% in the last 6 months. Now, if you know your electricity tariff will be lowest at 2 o'clock at night, and you load your washing machine, and it starts exactly at 2 o'clock, you reduce cost. So that's an utilization of how machine will help you to reduce your overall cost, bring more sustainability, make the world greener. The second, maybe you really do not know when the electricity tariff will be lowest. Now you're assuming it will be low at 2 o'clock, but with this EV and other things, with the demand and supply gap, it can happen anytime. Now suppose you have a device, it automatically detects from the software when the electricity cost will be lowest, and then the sensor will start operating and the washing machine will start, or some boiler will start, or maybe cold roll mill 2 will start, or you can compare between two hot strip mill, one in India, another in Indonesia, similar design, which is consuming lesser energy. These kind of things is possible. So, the limit is, there is no limit to that. The only thing is how do we implement these technologies? It's not very costly. In fact, sometimes the payback period is not even months or years. It can be even one day. A small device costs sometimes less than $100, which can give you a cost saving more than $1,000 in 1 month. So it is like that. However, I think we'll discuss more when we come to the questions. Right.
Thank you. Over to you, Sanjay.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'll just take a few cues from the topic that was shared. It says reduce cost, uh, drive efficiency, and invest smartly. So I'll take some learnings from, a few of us in this panel have actually grown up with the Tata Business Excellence model. And it does, some of the criteria that speaks about is leadership and strategy. Today we equate that with cybersecurity and ESG as, priority that is for leadership and strategy. Then of course comes people, customer, processes, products and services, and suppliers, and of course the regulators. So reducing cost by itself, as as part of the topic, is an important lever to address the criteria in business excellence that I just spoke of. But it will fall short of sufficiency if it is not digitally supported by very clear process discovery, validation and improvement. And when I say process here, I include both business processes as well as the IT delivery process, looking at the entire life cycle. And at the same time, one has to ensure that whatever we do meets the product and services that the customer wants through, sometimes organizations go through, while doing this, with value-added and non-value-added processes. So that's where one needs to address and bring that sustainability, so that whatever limited investment that has happened to bring in that efficiency stays the ground. So with these opening remarks, we'll come back to the nitty-gritties a little later. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Anirban Mukherjee. Good morning to everyone. Just to give a quick introduction to myself, I am from PwC. I'm a partner in the data and analytics practice, but I've had more than 25, 30, close to 30 years of experience, starting off very much as a production person with the Tatas, moving on to work with BP, Shell, and other global majors, and have been in consulting now, looking at cost and business excellence. So I have a slightly different point of view maybe to some of what has already been spoken, though I agree with most. I think there isn't necessarily a conundrum or a conflict between the two. I think cost leadership very often can be part of a business excellence strategy. When we are discussing technology, I think the challenge that most decision makers face is that when you need to invest in technology, it usually drives up the cost of your, while it could improve things like end customer service, it could improve quality, it could improve productivity in various ways. I think the initial investment is what a lot of us balk at, saying, should we invest? As long as we treat investment as different from operating cost, I think the case can often be made that digital platforms are a crucial enabler of cost management. I mean, Sarajit mentioned that what is not measured is often not managed. Now, for 30 years, I've been doing cost containment kind of projects where we've looked at areas where cost can be taken out. The sustainability of these projects, when we leave as consultants, we often find that within a year or two, it degrades. However, when we have left digital platforms behind, whether it's an energy management platform, whether it's a quality platform, whether it's whatever, we find that it has survived a longer life and driven much more value within the enterprise. I'll leave that as my starting point. I think later would like to dig deeper into something that Eliyahu Goldratt said about how you do cost management versus how you do business excellence. I think that's a very interesting point I'll bring up later.
No, so Sanjay took my mic and forgot to introduce himself. So I'll have my mic back. You can introduce yourself.
No, it's okay. So I'm paying the cost for it. Sanjay Prasad. I'm the CIO for CSC Limited. Thank you.
I think it works. So, good morning, everyone, and good morning to my esteemed panel members as well. My name is Sajid Hussain. I'm from Cognizant. I'm the center head for Cognizant Kolkata, and I also manage part of our Salesforce practice. So, customer experience, CRM, digital experiences core to what I do. I've been doing it for the last almost 30 years now. Coming to the topic at hand, I tend to agree with Anirban in terms of that this is not necessarily a paradox. If you go back to what we mean really by digital transformation, I think my peers here, they spoke about the definition of cost. I will actually go back to the definition of digital. And the whole point of digital is to be able to enable efficiencies in how you approach your business processes, how you achieve scale globally, how you improve the productivity of your employees, et cetera, et cetera. It's a long laundry list. But essentially, it is about creating the right sort of technology platforms and processes that help you do things more efficiently, reduce the cost to serve per unit, if you will. So from that standpoint, it's something that we go talk to our clients a lot about. It's called transforming while performing. So you inherit something that is not necessarily efficient, but you derive efficiencies out of it and use that to fund your transformations. So then it becomes kind of a self-sustaining exercise with a minimum amount of CapEx investment. So at least in my mind, this is not necessarily a paradox. It's an intrinsic element of how you need to approach transforming your business, because I am firmly of the conviction that if you don't, you will actually fall by the wayside, like many firms have, and we'll talk about that when we get to the next set of questions. But there is an element of cost that you will incur if you don't do it. Okay, so for example, there are different regulatory requirements which are becoming more and more complex every single day. There are all the climate pledges that have been made internationally that every company, including the companies that operate in India, are now bound to live with, and so on and so forth, right? So without having the right sort of digitally transformed processes and platforms, as a firm, you're going to increase your cost, and that itself actually is part of the paradox, right? You're actually freeing up that cost by investing now. So Sarojit, those are my opening comments. And back to you.
Thank you. So since we have so many panelists, let me summarize quickly what was said so far. So of course, Ravi kind of started off saying that it becomes a paradox if technology investments crowd in people rather than crowding out people. And that if you don't measure the cost clearly and make clear decisions which are acceptable in the organization, you will have cost creep. So in a way, he said that the paradox happens because you don't do it in the right way. Amit, of course, brought in the case that there should be a very clear business case with established goals, and one should focus on the value that the costs bring in rather than look at the cost per se alone. Madan, of course, talked about the man and machine, and it's the man with the right machine that brings down the cost and does the job, and that's what the transformation paradigm should be. But importantly, I think designing for predictability and looking at payback period are two of the other concepts that he introduced. I think Sanjay, of course, took from the Tata Business Excellence model. And the key thing is that you need to make sure that there is a correct drive and that you look at the whole thing in a very holistic way. And I'll take the opportunity to also introduce something that TCS does in that very well. They have the ETVX criteria. So anything that is coming in needs to have an entry. Unless the entry criteria is maintained, nothing is admissible. The tasks that are there should be very clear. You should have the validation that the tasks that entered were indeed done. And then there is exit criteria that yes, this cost of sign-off for because it is designed for the objectives for which it was incurred in the first place. So I think that's very, very important that one has to look at value-added and non-value-added and have a criteria for it. Anirban, of course, brought in the whole investment versus operating cost differentiation, which is a need. And I think I want to explore the point of entropy, that things are not one and done, but left to themselves. Costs creep up and value creeps down. So there is a entropy that sets in, and how we combat it. I would come back to you. And of course, I think Sajid made the very important point that there are externalities that are creeping onto the cost structure, which is regulations, which is the need for climate, which is the need for greening. And left to itself, I think that ties up with Anirban's point as well, that those are some of the factors that lead to entropy in terms of capabilities going down, because your capabilities were not made to support climate change, were not made to support the regulations as they are emerging, and were basically, in a way, what got us here will not get us there, right? So let me go in the reverse order. So Sajid, why don't you tell us what should an organization do, given that there is a sustainability angle, there is a regulation angle, there could be other CSR angles which are coming in. And what does everybody in the room do about it? I mean, they go from here, they go into their office, but what is it that you want them to do differently that would be useful for them?
Sure, no, it's a great question. So, see, in my mind, at any point in time, first of all, it's a given that you have to look at your current technology landscape and your processes to see whether they actually are designed to handle whatever you're investing in. Once you figured that out, the next question is your project list and what is it that you want to prioritize. See, in my mind, the priority has to be, again, based on different parameters, right? So Tata Business Excellence Model has a certain set of parameters that you would look at to prioritize projects. You need not do every single project. Most of our clients who are successful in this, they are successful because they adopted a sort of a crawl, walk, and run strategy. It was never a big bang. Big bang is a costly, time-consuming, and lengthy process, and by the time you actually get around to implementing something that your business can use, things would have changed on you, right? They rarely take less than 3 years, and by that time, the world has shifted. In today's world, it is all about being agile. It's about taking up methodology that allows you to fail fast. It allows you to challenge a hypothesis, prove it one way or the other, and make course corrections very quickly. So the ability to fail fast without having too much of a sunk cost is really important, and your organization has to be ready for it. Any digital transformation is not only about technology, it's about the people. One of the things that one of my colleagues here spoke about, right, the smart meter example or the washing machine example. Now, we all have those equipment, I mean, those pieces of equipment in our house, but honestly speaking, I will confess that I never thought about using the 2 a.m. paradigm and being able to reduce cost and bring more efficiency into how I run my household. So we have a lot of smart products. We have a lot of smart platforms that we are implementing in different enterprises. The question is, have we actually thought through every single use case and trained our employees, our customers, and other stakeholders to enable them to leverage those efficiencies? Because if you don't, then your ROI is not going to be what you thought it was.
So thanks, Sajid. So that Anirban comes to what I wanted to explore, and I think Sajid had left it at a very good place, which is saying that you look at the use cases, you need to think through them, and you need to make sure that people are trained. Because none of us kind of probably thought about Madan's paradigm of 2 a.m. using washing machines. In fact, I'm going to think about it. Also think about other areas where that is probably admissible. So how does an organization, and these things are not new, right? Look at use cases, train the people, management of change, make sure that you stay the course, fail fast, fail forward. What is it that is making it so difficult to do?
Great question. So as consultants, obviously, we are in the business of trying to spot those use cases for the industry. We obviously go and come up with the latest innovations that could be made. See, so having spent a couple of decades at least trying to find use cases where I can do, let's say, cost efficiency projects, right? We know the sweet spots. So we often know that, if you're like a highly energy intensive business, typically energy management is a sweet spot where you can find cost efficiencies, right? However, to be able to spot some of these more innovative, most people would have done the basics around, let's say, cost efficiencies like energy management, right? To be able to spot the latest that we are talking about, you have to be well aware of both the domain as well as the technology. And it's usually being able to bridge two very separate areas of technology, because both are, if you're into steel making, you're a steel making expert. If you're into managing data on the cloud and doing IoT and sensorization and all of that, that's usually a different technology. Digital is what's trying to bridge, bringing in that IT technology to address certain use cases very specific to your domain. And I think that's where the innovation lies. That's where you figure out also the cultural aspect of whether that would be sustainable, and the point of entropy, saying how do we make sure that these actually live up to the value expectations that you did when you actually planned for it or designed it. And we often find that when you design a digital platform properly, you are able to ensure that the value accrual continues over years. Otherwise, we used to do projects maybe 20 years back where we used to go in and suggest an improvement, suggest a process change, suggest changes in standard operating procedure. But a year later, you used to find that again, things have gone back to, the earlier ways of working. This, I think, is one of the major, let's say, changes that have happened, and what we need to do when we are actually selecting the use cases that we want to prioritize. So typically, what would I suggest? There is usually a road mapping exercise for digital projects that everybody who would have embarked on this digital journey would have done. In this particular prioritization effort, I think we need to consider a broader set of parameters, and it's not just which is technically feasible or which is the maximum monetary benefit. There are other softer aspects that we need to consider when we prioritize the roadmap. And one digital initiative usually feeds into others. We often call them platform digital initiatives that feed into point cases, right? It's an exercise that a lot of corporates have already taken, and I think a lot of them are on their journey. But I'd like to hand over at this point, maybe come back to this point later, but would love to hear other people's point of view also on the same.
Thanks. So what I hear you say is that there is a domain and there are subdomains, so steel making, and below that there'll be some other processes, and then there's a cloud, and then there are capabilities in the cloud. The roadmap needs to take both of them together. You need to design very clearly for technological feasibility, maybe user lovability and business viability, otherwise simultaneously. So again, I think till that point also we were there. So Sanjay, let me put you a bit on the spot, because I think Anirban kind of left it without really answering that question. Why is the rubber burning when it's hitting the road? Why are we still discussing this topic in 2023 September? That how do I manage, I'm not able to get the returns on digital investments which we have started 7 or 8 or 9 years ago as a fraternity.
You have really put me on the spot, but the rubber hitting the road is not only dependent on the quality of the tire, but also on the tar that is being used on the road. So again, I reflect back on, I'll take some examples from the industry that I'm coming from and relating it to the B criteria that I spoke of. So I'll relate leadership, strategy, process, products and services, and customer. So, the power industry has gone in with 3 generational changes. One, it was supposed to be a pensioner's paradise. Then it led to unbundling of generation, transmission, and distribution. And now it is actually talking about unbundling the last mile, which means the consumer becomes the customer, and you have to think in the mindset of like an FMCG company. I am able to relate it because having spent 10 years also in the consumer industry in the past, that's where the mindset change needs to come in. So if you look at the customer pyramid, in case of the sector that I'm coming from, obviously delivery is a given. That's the base of the pyramid, where you have to give reliable, consistent power, and it is based on very efficient LT and HT outage management that we have, and to ensure that we move on to the next level where the consumer is looking at convenience. So what was earlier, the online presence leading to transactional fulfillment, some of the metrics that we have seen on the ground was from pre-pandemic, we have had a two-third increase in the online fulfillment channels because, our consumer base is divided across all household sectors of the economy. And while doing this in terms of both value and volumes, increasing by two-thirds from pre-pandemic then and to where we are today, it also gives us some affinity through the digital channels close to the consumer. But convenience is not where we end at. Next is experience. So going through the whole arena of chatbots, WhatsApp bots, then electrician app, which is more like an Uberization of the your household or pada or kirana store. That's also one of the experience when you talk about experience. And then taking it up to the next level where we are talking about centricity. That means in terms of outages, the consumer does not have to go through the whole 9 yards through the call center, but is able to take advantage of a digital voice assistant in vernacular. Today we have Hindi, English, and Indian English, Hindi, and Bengali running, and perhaps we are the first in the corporate world to do this combination. Indian English and Hindi probably we have seen in many banks, but Bengali is something that which is running live now almost for more than a year, which gives the convenience to the consumer to really converse and get an understanding of what the outage is, because in the back end it integrates with the other back end systems and is able to then generate a docket and keep the entire contact center piece shielded. So both customer centricity as well as you're looking at how you're economizing your cost to serve comes into play. So as I mentioned right at the beginning, it's both cost management has to be connected with at least one extra lever. That means whether you're improving, either it's a process efficiency or revenue accretion or able to bring in increased customer experience. One point, again, in centricity is looking at the life cycle of the customer, starting from where you're onboarding the customer, be it a bank or be it a gas company or a power company, you have to make sure that that is a seamless process. Two things come out. If you're able to bring down the KYC process, eliminate, some elements of sometimes fraud which can come in for a new connection, you are able to onboard the customer, bring him closer than the 4 days that you took to less than a day. So this brings in again the customer centricity, and you are able to bring him on board 3 days earlier. So if you multiply that, in X number of consumers over a year, that brings in a big scalar difference. And then moving on and providing the maintenance of services to the life cycle of the consumer. So ensuring an integration of GIS, CRM, and the SCADA generation 2 that we are just about to get into. So again, that connects the customer, the asset, and the employee in terms of productivity in bringing down the repair time back to the consumer. So these are elements of centricity that come into play and will bring in that customer affinity. So from a business excellence model, taking your processes, products, and services close to the consumer, and these interventions that I spoke of at the process level, be it dropping your CRC footfalls at your customer relation centers, where reducing the interaction time through sustained and responsible interventions of RPA has brought in benefits, and also in terms of other interaction channels where both RPA and ML play a part. So this is from a business process perspective that we just spoke of, how to get the consumer closer. But, and it involves the whole gamut of process discovery. When I talk of process discovery, it actually means that you are looking at both value-adding and non-value-adding processes that lead up to this delivery. And it's a well-known process of value stream mapping that needs to be done. So that's a tool that is very well-known and can be applied, but it requires a lot of hard work. And that integrated with value stream management, now I'm coming to the IT side of the story. Now, in order to do all that, you have to make sure that your IT delivery is also matching up to what the business expects in addressing the life cycle of the customer. So we hear of buzzwords. I mean, some of them are actually hit the ground, like agile, CI/CD, DevSecOps, low, no code. So I'll just pick up one of them in terms of DevSecOps, where you're able to bring in traceability from the operations back to the development and the security workbench. That means you're addressing application security right at the beginning, and a very well-known strategy in software circles in the IT field is shift left. So this is a classic example of shift left, where when you're building, you're doing your planning, design, build, and then pushing the code to the developer workbench. And that's the time where the test, merge, and test come into play. That is where you're taking up modules, mixing them up, and making sure you do that static testing at that point of time. And again, then move rightwards after the merging, then moving into deploy and operate. That is where the pre-production comes in, and ensure that you have your dynamic application testing come into play, along with your typical UAT and integration testing that you do. So when you do this whole, it actually adds up to 9 yards. If you take each building block as a yard, then probably you have a sari which you can boast of. So, so this is where I wanted to interject a new thing, because we all are talking about ChatGPT and the large language models and ChatGPT and its cousins. So people are talking about how this can bring in 30 to 40% of efficiency in code generation. So let me relate that to a typical example that you would have on a software floor, and I'm taking this from my TCS experience, that you would have simple functionality built in, and you'd ask your, Sarajit, wo jara data check wala jo functionality hai, just pass it on to me. So this is what will get replaced by efficient prompt engineering, and making sure that the large language models are able to give you proven functionality to you, and you are able to plug it in and reduce that entire time frame to bring the whole cycle time shorter. But it doesn't absolve the developer from the responsibility of making sure of going through that push, merge, and deploy and operate, the testing pieces. That responsibility still remains with the developer, and he has to do it with a responsibility on his own, because anything which you outsource or get from outside, the responsibility still remains with the person who has done that. So, but yes, that's a positive thing that one will get to see, and improvements will come along. And that's where this whole, I didn't use the word cost anywhere, but if you reflect back, every element that we spoke of does have a cost amelioration. Optimization will take some more time, because we have to get used to this entire life cycle process. Thank you.
Oh, so that was a business primer. So I'll just kind of summarize the business primer, so that more for my sake rather than for anybody else's sake. So I think what Sanjay said is, in a way, that look, the customer is migrating, and the value migrates with the customer. So he started off by saying that there is the, if you take the power industry, it was generation, then there was generation, distribution, transmission and distribution. Now he said that the consumer is becoming the customer, and vice versa. And of course, I would go on to say that microgrids and rooftop solar is making the consumer into a producer as well. Now, obviously, the business model that is required, how you identify, deliver, create, and generate value, needs to shift with that. So if the business model needs to shift with that, then Sanjay was saying that the operating model, who does what, when, and how, and with what, needs to change. Now, your operating model changing is very hard work because it needs to stay close to the customer. And that is where the customer experience and the convenience comes in. And that is where the false paradox of trade-off with cost comes up, because your cost structure, as we started, was to cater to a different business model and cater to a different operating model. So, and all of this is basically a lot of hard work. And that will take me to the point that you have to design for a business model and an operating model. So I think I would make a dramatic statement at this point of time that after 45 minutes, we have come to the conclusion that the paradox happens because the cost structure is supporting a different business model and a different operating model, not the business model or the operating model that your current business should dictate. And your current business goals are staying close to the customer, providing an experience and a convenience. So at that point, I think we come back to where you began, which is design for 2 a.m. So Madan, your thoughts on how do you design for 2 a.m.? Besides hard work and people are lazy and they are not accountable, which is what Sanjay said.
We are always in a dilemma, how much capex and how much return that will get, and that is, I think, surfacing, and that's true for India, and now it is true for the world, because there is a shortage of money. The business leaders, especially when you're thinking to use digital methods, devices, hardware, software, to reduce the cost, you have to find some low-hanging fruits, okay? Now, it can be power for someone, it can be water for someone else, or it can be traceability of components, which goes to the final customer, and if they find some quality issues, ultimately that turns to a cost, and you can trace it back that what has happened and where at what point of time. Now, the example that I gave, of 2 a.m., it is just an example so that all of you can understand. It's not necessary that you have to get up and start the machine at 2 a.m., but it can be programmed. Designing is very important, that he was saying, like how you design. You can design the system so that when it is lowest, there's an information flow from somewhere to somewhere that now it is low, and we start. The second thing can be predictive. It can predict from the demand-supply gap. I'm not talking about only power. Demand-supply gap exists everywhere, right? It can predict that probably at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., the cost of power or water or gas will be lowest, or traffic, or Ola, or Uber, and so you plan your journey according to that. There is one more, bigger problem sometimes we try to not see. When digital transformation definitely reduces the cost, if it is properly implemented, there is a vulnerability also. And if we don't take care of that, then the expenditure can be exceptionally high. There can be loss of, I'm not only talking about loss of information or something like that, intangible things, but tangible there is also. That it can completely go haywire if someone else has got a control on that. So we need to be very careful about that. Now, coming to the topic that we are thinking, the world will be seeing a lot of disruption now. The kind of natural calamity that you have seen in last 50 years, the same thing that we have seen in next 5 years. When we are thinking about the manufacturing industry or the normal industry or household, the government also can reduce, and we can see that now, with the satellite data and others, how they are reducing the cost, or post-damage, the cost of, surfacing or back to normal, that cost is coming down heavily. So don't block your mind that, okay, this is only for manufacturing or post-manufacturing, this is go to consumer, will not go to consumer, will come to customer, consumer becoming a customer, consumer becoming, this will continue. But definitely this is going to reduce cost, and you just need to balance that how much capital you'll invest and what is the return on investment that you're thinking. Don't be short-sighted. At the same time, don't spend so much that, okay, you do something for future, but that future you'll never be able to see, right?
So it's like water in a bucket capital, right? You take drops of it, maintain the water, and make sure that you get the value for every drop. Thank you. So Amit, question to you. You started with the business case. Hearing all of this, how do you quickly make a business case, and how do you get it approved? So somebody has to approve it.
So I think this, the, so we are having the wonderful discussion. There's sometimes like we are in between that, okay, this, whether it is a paradox, not paradox and all this stuff. I think this, we need to look at it, maybe this, the Sarojit, they talked about it, about this, the entropy. So I think this, all the paradox that will come only when that we look at maybe a kind of an local optima, okay. So if we design the solutions for something which is basically this, which can bring some local optima, then there would be a problem. Because see that the solution has to work in an ecosystem, okay, and that's why this, nowadays we see this, why the platform becomes so the kind of convenient for people, because it basically opens up, okay, and they connect all the stakeholders, give the visibility to the every stakeholders, and probably empower them to the take decisions on making it more efficient, okay. And I think this, while we are creating this, the use case, we need to consider this, all the stakeholders of any use case. We have to see this, how the proposed changes or the cost reduction or the cost optimization is going to impact, even if for any project, like any transformation project that we are taking, needs to be looked into this, how it is going to impact all the stakeholders. And the ones we actually derive that one, this, what would be the impact on the stakeholders. And I think it will help in two aspects. One is basically say that the solution is not going to be only for the local optima, but it is going to work on maybe a broad base, the environment or something like that, where I think it will be, even if this, we see this, and sometimes we have to go beyond our organizational barrier also. Because for a sustainability perspective that we have to see, like maybe this we can design a solution which is very cost effective, but it can maybe this may not be good for the environment or something like that. Okay, and we should not take the easy path and going ahead with something, doing something very selfish, which is basically for the doing profits for the organization. But we need to see this, what is the impact with the other stakeholders. So I think there's a lot of cases like when we are working on any new projects or the initiatives. So there are like this, the CFO office asks that what is this project about? Can you simply tell me this, whether it is revenue generating or it is kind of the cost reduction initiative, okay? And many cases I found this, it is very difficult to maybe segregate these two, because any initiative that you have to find it out is the what value it is creating and at what cost it is coming. And I will again tell that the value creation, and I will tell this, we should not only see the value creation from a kind of the siloed the way, we should look at the value creation for all the stakeholders. And so it also solves a lot of problems which we, actually this, the latter phase of project we normally face. We talk about change management and all this stuff, and I think those becomes a problem only when we missed maybe this the impact on some of the stakeholders, and we found there is not a buy-in from some of the stakeholders or something like that, which can create a problem or a bottleneck for the project, and which can also lead to maybe ruin the project itself. And the initiative may not be also sustainable, because if it is not a win-win solution for all the stakeholders, and if you can't establish that it is a win-win solution for all these things, I think it is not the right business case or right use case that you are working. I would also like to highlight this. The one point is basically see that the cost or kind of in business excellence itself is a continuous improvement process. So it's not that one time the project that we are going to do. So it's specifically the cost is kind of the continuous improvement project. So it is important that we need to build it as a culture, okay? And the technology can be used very innovatively to actually build the culture so that we can give the visibility to all these stakeholders about the cost and probably the value creation that is happening in the process, and maybe this empower them to in some of the cases empower them to they take decisions, like we are talking about this, how the man and machine can work together, how an washing machine can be the maybe switch on when this it is the utilization of the electricity is lower. Okay, and how can maybe this they come up with innovative solutions in terms of this. The one is basically say that the empowering people to take the decisions and bringing a win-win proposition that okay, this if you use the washing machine maybe at 2 o'clock in the morning, okay, you will be charged less. Okay, so there's they know that okay, this probably the electricity charges at that point of time will be lower, and it would also help this the power generation company also to maybe they focused and maybe they distribute their loads. They will have less kind of an operational cost and all this stuff. So that's how I look at it.
Thank you. So I think that was a business case formation primer. So you spoke about having global optima and global metrics. I'm sure you also meant that if you go for global optima, there would be local sub-optima, which would be a part of it. You talked about management of change to be built into the business case. You talked about sustainability and risks to be looked at upfront, and they should be contested. And finally, it should obviously be a true business value chain and use technology innovatively. I think Sanjay also wanted to say in his example that the DevSecOps and the IT planning has to go hand in hand with the business planning. Otherwise, the IT planning will incur its own set of costs. And I think that brings us very good to what Ravi has been, the contrarian in the group has been saying, that there indeed a paradox. So Ravi, have we convinced you, or that if these set of people were doing this, then there is no paradox, but the lazy set of people doing it without design thinking is the paradox? Over to you, Ravi.
Unfortunately, that's the majority. So generally you say. So yeah. So see, how do you like what Amit was saying is absolutely correct. You know, cost is a culture. Okay. So you design for cost. You know, whatever you do. Like I know a lot of you are from the industry. We are discussing about power and all. There is a company in IIC Bangalore that specializes in incubated with IIC Bangalore, specializes in reducing cost for electricity consumption in industries. Okay, they claim they'll bring it down by 15%. There are people like that, you know. So we have to pick that up, even from infra perspective. So, but the point is that when someone is saying that reduce the cost, the rest, if the culture is not there, the rest of the folks are saying that, hey, you know, this is not something that we are looking at. You know, if you reduce the cost, there's so many problems that are going to happen, right? But the idea is, if you understand the impact of reducing cost, it can also increase the efficiency, it increase the bottom line. Everyone has to believe in that model, right? The second important is, you know, like I said in the beginning, cost versus investment. Okay, so I'm not saying that being frugal is good, okay, but being frugal that impairs your investment for the future is again something which is not a very good idea to do. So it's a very fine balance, you know, when the cost investment. But yes, consciously, you know, we have to look at the cost and we have to find innovative ways to reduce them, you know, by not disrupting the current process and the people. Like we do a lot of cost optimization. We are the infra guys, right? So we do a lot of cost optimization for infra on the cloud, right? We have done optimization for a large media company, bring their running cost by 50%, from $40,000 a month to $20,000, right? Who did that? It was not the infra levers, it was the developers. Okay, so end of the day, you know, you have to really find out what is, who in the organization, whether it is a people or process or whatever, that actually impacts to bring, you know, and gives you the right lever to bring it down. And finally, you know, believe in data. Everyone believes in data, right? So if you can, you know, from your current usage, bring out the data and say, hey, this is the fluctuation, you know, this is where we can actually save, bring down the utilization and save, people will believe you, you know. Just, you know, so the tools that you invest in, because we are talking about, you know, the tools that can actually, you know, work on bringing the cost, have to be very carefully selected for a particular goal. Okay, generally what happens is that your goal is very different. You choose a wrong tool, then you choose people who can run that tool, and end of the day, there is an absolute mismatch. There's a guy sitting there giving you data which you don't need, right? So how many industries are using SCADA to the best? Right, I mean, it's an amazing platform, right? Industry 4.0 is being done. There's so many stuffs to be done just to capture where your waste is happening. AI, believe in AI. Not just Gen AI, even the deterministic AI is very powerful. It gives you a lot of information, right? So invest in that, So that's how you can bring it. But the culture is very important. Everyone has to believe that, yes, we have to do it, right?
No, so I need to summarize. We are short on time. So thank you, the panelists. Let me, taking all the notes, in the view of the panel, first you need to stay close to the customer, define the experience and the convenience. Then you need to understand your business model to make sure that you can deliver to the customer. Then you need to make sure you understand your operating model, who does what, how, when, using what tools. Then you need to make sure that you make the business case. When you're making the business case, make sure that the investment case and the ongoing costs are different, because otherwise you will confuse the two. Make sure that regulation, risk, sustainability are all baked into it. Ensure that you're looking across all the value chain and not in isolation. Once you've defined the entire value chain, make sure that you look at global optima and ensure that the management of change is built in and that the company accepts the initiative that you're taking. Ensure that you design for predictability and you use all the data that you have, and you have connected assets, connected people, and connected processes, as Sanjay said, which is taking the data. And finally, make sure your IT ops is in sync and your capabilities are in sync to do that, and work hard. This is not an easy or a lazy people's task. It's neither easy nor lazy. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I open it up for any questions. Otherwise, we will vacate the stage for the next panel. I think whoever knows me knows I'm a stickler for time, and we started about 40 minutes late, 20 minutes late, so I don't want to ensure that I don't take any more time than we already have. Yeah, one question there.
Sarajit, there's just one comment I'd like to make before we go to the questions. So one thing that I've learned over the last 4 or 5 years is the importance of having digital natives as part of this whole conversation, this whole journey, okay? Most of us in this room, I will just make a bold statement, are not digital natives. We have adopted digital. Today, when I have a problem on hand, both my children are teenagers. I actually go to them with the problem, and more often than not, they're able to give a very unique perspective, which doesn't come to our minds because we have been trained in a certain way. Our education has happened in a certain manner. Just last week, I was actually at a college. They were running a hackathon, preparing for the Smart India hackathon. And believe me, the type of ideas and the type of use cases these college kids in first year, second year, and third year were able to bring forward, I don't think even, the majority of our workforce today, because they are operating with a certain mindset, they will not bring that innovation quotient to the table. So my submission to this entire audience, as you think of digital and you think of transformation, think about how you can engage digital natives in that exercise, because they will bring a lot of outside in and brilliant perspectives to the table, which you and I cannot.
Absolutely true, and actually that's sort of captured in the first statement we made, which is think about the customer and they are changing. And when you define, for example, when you define your employee force or your customers, think about Zen Z and Zen, whatever the Zen, whichever is the latest Zen model, and ensure that you are designing for them. But we'll take the question from the gentleman. Sorry. Mic to the gentleman.
Hi, I'm Amar Agarwal, and I'm a business consultant for small and medium-sized enterprises. The question is, when we talk of cost in India, at least, what I see and what I see, it's a general thing because I will not name any companies because of time, that they are actually cutting down on the quality. Take it anything, all consumer products, irons, washing machines, mixies, all sorts of things. Furniture, you buy something which is cheap and, at a lower cost, and ultimately it doesn't work for the required or optimum time. Anything. That is the general scenario. What you people are mentioning here, all of you and from yesterday, is on larger companies having a proper system, everything digitized, those kind of things. What we are now looking for is solutions for smaller companies. How they would reduce
I understand.
costs, how they would make it digitized, and as well, websites, their entire electronics, their entire data is getting hacked, viruses and a whole lot of things. Now, if you go to any company, because, they come for solutions to me, honestly. The cost of these people is like crores.
No, I understand. So
We are looking for solutions for smaller companies as well.
if I may address that.
Okay.
So, I don't think what we are saying, if you say yield, energy, throughput, quality, and productivity, those are the only 5 metrics for any business, right?
Yeah.
If you take that I don't care about quality, you won't be a sustainable business. Even if you're a business of 1, suppose I am a business of 1 today, okay? Look at what basically Sajid said. It all begins by being close to the customer. So if your customer you need to be close to the customer. And once you're close to the customer, you need to define the experience and the convenience. Otherwise, you don't have a business. So it doesn't matter whether you're small, large, medium, hefty, whatever you are. Doesn't matter which business you're in. Once you do that, the rest of it, who is saying that you go and hire, go to McKinsey if you need business consulting? You can get ChatGPT and make your legal documents. Go to your friendly neighborhood lawyer with a ChatGPT document and ask him to just make sure that he takes the hallucination out of it. The question is, are you committed to yield, energy, throughput, quality, productivity, and the customer as a business? Is all that in a way we are saying, and we are in a way saying that the rest of it is boilerplate, you can figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, you should not be in business. Sorry.
I just add to what Sarajit said, obviously, no one's recommending a boiler template for small and medium industries. I'll say small industries, and it's not that medium industries, they have also adopted IT in an intelligent way. So mindful adoption is important. You need not use a tally instead of a financial ERP.
That's what they do.
And so don't go in for this costly licensing. Look for open source stack. So of course that also requires some guidance but these are areas where even large companies are looking at, where open source actually alleviates some of the costs for costly licensing for not so important functional parameters that you run in your systems.
With all that said, sir, with all due respect, ultimately what's happening is small and medium companies are, getting washed out. Thanks to the larger companies, because they can afford all of that, what you people are saying. And ultimately, the society, the country, I'm not being socialist out here, it survives on small companies in reality. That is the fact, whether we believe it or not.
So, I know I'm out of
So
time.
we're looking for small solutions,
But we are this year in ICT Jharkhand, our entire focus is on the SME for digital. And what we are doing is, we are going to do small labs, okay? And solve a problem. Saying that there are enterprises which are catering, which are anywhere. The other thing is that a 250 crore enterprise is very different from a 5 crore enterprise, is very different from a 3,000 crore enterprise. So when we even use the term small and medium, in my view, even those are broad generalizations. So there I completely agree with you. But we are very keen to support the SMEs because they are 45% of employment. They are, they are generative. People in small and medium companies, by the way, have 13 times more patents than large companies per capita. So to say that, and obviously these large companies were not born large. They were companies that started small and were able to migrate that journey. So it's very important that two things, small companies get the kind of support that they deserve today or desire today. Happy to have that dialogue. The other is that Ultimately, the journey from small to large is one that traverses, and business is not an easy game. It's a tough one. No company was born large. IBM did not become IBM by doing the things it's doing today. IBM started very small. Microsoft started in a garage. Most companies, Tata Steel actually started in a jungle, and we didn't even know whether we would survive or not. We had three life-threatening incidences, and every day one happens. So it's not to say that small means you just get washed out. That's why I'm again repeating. It's not the size that matters. It's your passion, purpose, and energy to serve the customer and stay agile that matters. And small companies actually have an advantage in being agile. So there we can disrespectfully, and I need to, leave the stage, but I'm very passionate about this discussion, and so kind of pardon my strong views on that. I was supposed to be the moderator, but I didn't sound very moderate. So with that, thank you everyone. Thank you my panelists, and thank you for being such a lovely audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarojit. Before we disperse, we have a small memento to give away. So may I request, Sarojit, if you can kindly hand over a memento to Madan Mohan Chakraborty, Managing Director, Iskrameco India Private Limited. Thank you, thank you. So, there will be a photograph together. So to Mr. Amit Khan. To Mr. Anirban Mukherjee. To Mr. Sanjay Prasad. To Mr. Sajid Hussain. And to Mr. Ravi Shankar. May I request the Chairman, Dipankar Chakraborty, to kindly hand over a memento to Sarojit. So thank you. With this, we conclude the session. So we'll immediately start the next session, which is on emerging technologies and cloud transformation as lever for business excellence. So we'll take just a moment to rearrange the top table.